There are moments in history when the world seems to hold its breath. Moments when something vast, ancient, and indifferent reminds us how fragile we truly are. Most of the time, the threats we fear come from within: wars, mistakes, accidents. But in September of 1859, the danger came from the sky, and it came without warning. Back then, humanity lived under a simpler sky. No satellites, no power grids, no streaming, no radio, no glowing towers piercing the night. Just lanterns, horses, ink, steam, and the slow heartbeat of the telegraph lines that stitched continents together. But above them, the sun was not quiet. The first sign came on August 28, 1859, when auroras ignited across the night sky. People in New York stepped out into the streets, staring upward as crimson light spilled across the horizon. In Boston, curtains of green shimmered above church steeples. In the Caribbean, sailors reported skies glowing so brightly they could read their maps at night. The auroras were moving, growing, spreading, but no one understood what they meant. In London, two astronomers, Richard Carrington and Richard Hodgson, were observing sunspots through filtered telescopes. Sunspots were curiosities, dark blemishes on the burning surface of the sun. But what Carrington saw on September 1st was different. Something bright, violent, wrong. Two brilliant points of white light erupted near the center of a sunspot cluster, so intense he could see them through the filter. They moved, expanded, then vanished within minutes. Carrington had just witnessed a solar flare, but he didn't know that this flare was releasing billions of tons of charged particles, racing toward Earth at horrifying speed. Normally, such a cloud, called a coronal mass ejection, takes 2 to 3 days to reach Earth, but this one arrived in just 17 hours. What slammed into the planet on September 2nd was not just light or heat. It was a storm of electricity, a wave of solar fury that smashed into Earth's magnetic field. So violently the planet rang like a bell. The sky exploded. Auroras appeared over Rome, over Cuba, over Hawaii, over even the equator. Farmers in Colorado woke before dawn, thinking the day had begun, because the sky glowed bright red. In the Rocky Mountains, gold miners woke up, sat to eat breakfast, and only when the sun rose again did they realize they had eaten in the middle of the night. Newspaper editors wrote about celestial fire. Some believed the end of the world had arrived. Others thought massive fires were burning just beyond the horizon. But the true danger was happening where no one could see it, along the telegraph lines. Back then, telegraph wires were the arteries of modern civilization. Thin, fragile threads carrying messages across continents. When the solar storm hit, they turned into fuses. Operators felt their equipment heating beneath their hands. Sparks leapt from metal keys. Batteries powering the lines began exploding. Then something stranger happened. Even when telegraph operators disconnected the batteries, the messages kept coming. The cables were alive. The storm was generating its own electricity through the wires, using the Earth's magnetic field like a giant dynamo. Some operators reported bright arcs of blue fire dancing across their desks. Others claimed that telegraph paper caught fire. Metal melted. People were shocked unconscious. And still the auroras grew brighter. The entire planet, from pole to pole, was inside a cage of light and electricity. For 2 days, the sun reminded humanity of something we had forgotten. We are not in control. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the storm faded. The auroras dimmed. The telegraph lines cooled. The world slid back into darkness, unaware that it had just survived the most powerful geomagnetic event in recorded history, the Carrington Event. For a long time, it was just a story, a strange footnote from an age before electricity defined our existence. But as the world changed, power grids growing, communication towers rising, satellites circling above, the memory of 1859 became more unsettling. Back then, the world was barely wired. Today, everything is wired. Power grids, navigation systems, banking networks, GPS satellites, weather satellites, surveillance systems, planes, ships, internet cables, communications that stretch across continents and under oceans. networks so interconnected that a disruption in one can cascade across thousands. So scientists began to ask the terrifying question: what would happen if a Carrington-scale event hit Earth today? The short answer: everything would stop. The long answer is far worse. Satellites would fail first, fried by radiation in the upper atmosphere. GPS would collapse. Planes would lose navigation. Communication networks would drop offline. Transformers across continents would overload and explode. Massive sections of the power grid would go dark, not for hours, but for months, maybe longer. Hospitals, water systems, food distribution, banking systems. Everything modern civilization depends on would dissolve almost instantly. In 2012, a storm nearly identical to the Carrington Event blasted through Earth's orbit, missing the planet by just 9 days. If Earth had been slightly ahead in its orbit, the world you know today would not exist. NASA quietly published reports. Governments discussed emergency plans that never made headlines. Scientists warned again and again that the sun will erupt like that again, not if, but when, because the sun is not our friend. It is not our enemy. It is simply enormous, ancient, alive in its own nuclear way. We orbit a star that can erase our technologies in less than a second. And now, when scientists look at the data from 1859, they see not just a historical anomaly, but a warning, a reminder written across the sky in red and green fire. In the Victorian era, a solar storm shut down the most advanced technology of the time and set the sky ablaze with colors no one had ever seen. Today, a similar storm could erase the foundations of modern civilization. The Carrington Event was not the day the sun destroyed us. It was the day the sun showed us that it could. And in the quiet moments between solar storms, as our power grids hum and our screens glow and our satellites drift above us, we forget that the sky is watching. Somewhere on the surface of the sun, a sunspot flares, a magnetic field twists, a firestorm begins, and all it would take is one perfect eruption aimed directly at Earth to start the story again.